This video is brought to you by Slate Black Industries. For grips and accessories, visit slateblackindustries.com.
Ready for the German space magic, Henry?
The German American.
Alright, I'm on at 150. Impact. Impact.
So for the viewers out there, you'll see the casings are ejecting at the higher gas ejection location because we're shooting 77s instead of 55s. With 55s, it tends to go at a perfect 4 o'clock position.
Alright, I'm on at 200. Impact, center. Impact, center. Alright, I'm on at 250. Impact. Impact.
Was that
Pretty
center?
tight shots there, just below center.
Okay.
Alright, I am on at 300.
300.
Impact. Center. Impact. Nice.
Okay, 350.
I'm there. Impact. Center. Impact. Second shot was in the right shoulder.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on at 400.
Okay.
Impact. Impact. Good hits. Both right of center.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on at 450. Hold. It was an impact. Bottom left corner. Come up, maybe about half quarter target, call it, and ease off your windage slightly. Impact. Upper chest, just right of center.
Okay.
Okay, I'm on at 5. Impact. Center. Splash right at the neckline, about half a target to the right. Impact.
Oh, so close to a clean course.
The wind just got the best of you, Henry, huh?
It did. I was trying to send it quick, too. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, although slight disappointment given the hope and how close you were, one shot away from the perfect score.
I mean, okay, look. It's a slight disappointment, right?
Well, I'm saying I'm slightly disappointed in this exact moment because you were one trigger pull away from a perfect score.
Right, so...
However, a very impressive performance.
I mean...
responsive to the corrections, kind of spot on, and smoke this thing, huh?
Now, we have not done the potential accuracy yet, so I'm curious in seeing how it does on paper when we really press it for the core accuracy. But as far as the course goes, I mean, this is something that, it scores within range of its peers. The high dollar 556 Western type rifles that you would expect to shoot 77s at a high performance like this.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say, dude? Let's shoot some more.
Okay.
I mean, that was too good to just stop right there, right?
Yeah, so now, full disclosure on this. This VCOG is a 55 grain VCOG. So I was trying my best to accommodate 77s. But as we know, the deviation between 55s and 77s happens between the 600-ish line, which we're about to cross. So I'm going to need a little bit of help on the spotter just to get these on get these on if I'm unable to initially.
Okay. So our first target is going to be just to the back right of our previous engagement. This is about 570, 575 here.
Okay.
So let's start with that one and see if we can get some hits.
Okay, I'm just going to use the previous aiming hash, and I'm going to aim at the head level.
I think you should give it some more over
more?
that.
Give it a hat?
I would, yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a hat, and then I'll go on the left edge.
I'm there for it. Impact.
Nice.
Just low of center. Nice, dude. Easy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the next target is quite a bit further out. This one's at 680, which is the turkey.
Okay.
You want to try for that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm over at the turkey.
Okay, I'm going to use the prescribed hashes on this, but I don't know if it matches.
Okay, all right.
Ready?
Yeah, I'm on.
So I'm going to use a 700 to point at the toes of the turkey.
Got it. Yeah, I'd press off, just off left slightly. There's definitely left to right beyond the little creek bed out there.
Okay.
That looked like it came in about a target length high.
Okay.
How's it going, man? No, I think those are splashing over the top still, Henry.
Okay, so ease off even more.
Yeah, about half a target. Impact. Nice. Solid, dude. Solid.
So, yeah, that's basically at 620 on the ball ammunition hashes that I have on this thing.
All right, and the actual target's closer to 680 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, 680, 685, something
You think we can hit the 8?
Yeah, dude, let's go to the 8.
Okay. I'll use a 7 just so we start seeing where it goes, yeah?
Sure, I'm there. Short by 2 full targets.
Got it.
Impact!
Nice.
Right edge. See it?
I
your
do
6
not.
power
I'm on
optic?
6 power, so I do not see it.
Nice, dude.
I mean, look, all things considered, right?
I think that the key there, too, again, just to re-emphasize, is that you're shooting a BDC that's for a different round altogether.
Right. It's not optimized for 77s. However, I mean, you could work it out with a spotter. Was there ever any doubt that this thing could reach out at that distance, though?
No, I think we would have expected, especially if you had put a more SPR oriented optic on this and configured it less of a service rifle and more of a precision setup, I would have imagined that we would have cleared the 8 without too much difficulty.
That's something I kind of wanted to bring up. So when you're looking at the MR556, right? Traditionally, the A1 was super heavy on the barrel, right? And it's this. It was a boat anchor. We shot one. It's a boat.
The original one.
Original.
Yeah,
A1.
it was very front heavy.
Yeah, and it shot actually almost duplicate to what we saw right here. They lightened all of that, basically gave it a closer to the A4, A5, the 416 A5 upper with a new handguard on it. And so then I think a lot of people started looking at these things and started seeing that, so they're turning it into this 416, which is the assaulter. I think a lot of people in the US associate the 416 to the 416 Delta. So the one that special operations use, usually shorties, to accommodate suppressor use. Now in Europe, and I'm wearing my Norwegian top, a lot of the full-size 416s are just regular service rifles. So when I looked at this initially and I kitted out, I put the VCOG on there with the idea that this is closer to the European employment of the 416 in a service rifle up to 500 meter configuration. However, as I'm thinking this through, Josh, I don't need a flow-through can. When I use a suppressor, it's actually fairly easy to use a suppressor valve to adjust it. This thing is kind of an SPR crossover. Like, it has a basis for an SPR crossover. Like you could put a heavier like 2 to 10 or 3 to 15 optic on top with an RMR, and you could still cover the SPR grounds with a 16-inch matched barrel. But the big thing is, because you're running piston, you don't have a bunch of gas pushing back into your face.
So maybe it would be ideal for a suppressed...
Yeah, an SPR.
So, yeah.
Essentially, like what you think about the Mark 12 Hollands, the 16-inch barrel rifles, but I think it's still marketed very heavily as a general purpose rifle. But maybe this has a possibility of branching actually into closer to the SPR category. However, I will say, our course is heavily emphasizes the core accuracy of rifles at distances, right? And so what we saw, I mean, to be honest, like I expected nothing less than what we saw out there, and the reason why there was initial disappointment was because this could be another perfect score. And I missed the win call on that one particular one because I was too excited. It was the last one too.
Last. All right, dude. Let's take it over the debrief. Talk more about the HK MR556.
Now, before we go any further, a quick word from this video sponsor and title sponsor of the show, Midway USA. Here at 9hole, you see us shoot a variety of firearms. We use various optics, from red dots to 25 power precision scopes. We shoot various ammunition, from ball to match to hand loads. We shoot off of various mats and rests, we transport our firearms in a whole bunch of different cases, and we maintain our firearms with a variety of cleaning supplies. But we can find all of this at Midway USA. Midway carries just about everything for serious shooters. But the product offering isn't the only reason we choose Midway. If you need an order shipped quick, Midway's shipping department is probably one of the best in the business. Almost all the orders we place there ship the same or the next business day. And lastly, something I personally love, the stock availability feature. Not only can you see if a product is in stock and available to ship, but you can also see when back-ordered or out-of-stock items are expected to be available again. This lets us know it's safe to order a back-ordered product and that we won't get stuck waiting for months for it to come back into stock. So, if you're looking to pick up some new gear, be sure to check out Midway USA. Now, let's get back to the show.
Welcome into the debrief. Surprise, surprise. There's an HK product on 9hole Reviews, and it's in Henry's possession. Imagine our shock. But Henry, we're rollers. We're rollers.
We're rollers indeed. What we lost in rollers, we gained in evidently branding. So, the HK416, excuse me, the MR556A4. It has a lot of HK416 A5 elements to it. But, as it's released into the civilian market right now, it is not without controversy. And we will get into some of that controversy. Lots of juicy, dripping controversy that we're going to have to talk about today.
Because, of course, there couldn't be an extremely expensive, high-dollar rifle release without everybody having an opinion on it, right?
Every single one of them. The Spear LT, the Big Spear, the Scar, the Big Scar, and, of course, the MR556.
Very polarizing.
Yes.
Very polarizing.
Yes.
But Henry, before we get into the controversies and hopefully we can shed some light on some of those details that you sort of worked through and gained, as well as some of our opinions, let's talk about the run. Because maybe to nobody's real surprise, a very expensive, precise, and nice high-performance rifle shot with 77 grain ammunition in a relatively low wind day, shot exceptionally well on the course, and is up there with any of the top performers with a mere single miss on the final target, and being able to stretch that out and score impacts all the way to a 2.5-ish MOA target at 830 yards.
That's right.
First shot, too, on that one. So, again, when we look at that, it's like, For me, at this point, like, yep, that sounds about right.
You certainly expect it at this point when you're talking about this type of a price point and this type of a provenance of a company producing this type of a product. But I will say, so the miss at 500 when I reviewed it again, push that second one. I may have been running a little bit too close to the edge on that because I was trying to chase that second shot to drop it as quickly as possible, knowing that there was potential wind change coming up, and I just dropped it to the right. But I will say, touching back on that, you corrected me half a target left, and it landed exactly dead on the center line, half a target, or back right onto the target at the same elevation line, which that tells me...
To that point, right, very precise rifle, able to make direct corrections and to steer the round basically exactly where you want it to go.
Yeah.
So real quick, Henry, one of the things... At 700, we had a couple elevation misses, and I think that's just worth talking through a little bit here. You're shooting this with a VCOG because, of course, form factor for you.
Josh, this is the clone correct optic for the piston H&K, okay? The Marine Corps brethren out there will be happy to see this.
But what reticle's in it, Henry?
55 grain. That's the only one I had on hand.
So doesn't quite stack up with the 77s we were shooting, and as a result, a little bit of figuring out the exact hold needed to be done at 700. So,
but those were all elevation. Those were all elevation drops, those, which is an indication towards that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So again, that's really not on the rifle at all. It's more on us in terms of our optics selection and pairing with ammunition. So, all that to say, I think a lot of this, when it comes down to the actual shooting and the performance on course, again, very good, right in line with what we might expect. I'll comment just really briefly on like the shooting and the handling of the gun, because I did mess around with it a bit with you, just to feel it and see what it was sort of like in that capacity. And it feels like and shoots like what I'm sort of used to on these piston system setups. It's a little bit punchier than your regular AR, and it feels a bit on the overgas side in terms of what my expectation is in terms of overall smoothness. It is a bit on the punchier side. From a weight perspective and a balance perspective, quite nice, especially compared to some of the other stuff we've shot, like the old... was it the MR556 A1 back in the day? Is that what we shot back in the day?
The A1, the boat anchor. That thing had...
Yeah, basically...
it was all barrel in the front.
That front end of that gun was so heavy. I know that it turned you off to like wanting to get one. Yeah. Me too. This total reversion against that, like I picked this up. It's a heavier feeling gun. Like it's got some heft to it, but it's not imbalanced or oddly front heavy or anything like that. And so as a result of that, the overall shooting experience very much in line for me on what I would expect sort of out of a piston system like this.
Yeah. So on the topic of recoil and gassing, Josh, we got to play a little small role in the, let's say, fine-tuning of the assembly line for this particular rifle.
Because, of course, it is a T&E gun, right?
Correct. This is a pre-production sample for us to check out and see what we thought. And as it arrived, I don't know what happened to the rifle in the first place, because whatever UPS did, they bent the charging handle on it. So this rifle potentially had already faced some field damage. However,
was the box just wrecked when it showed up?
No, the box was not wrecked. It was just where the charging handle was. It was clearly bumped up, and then when you pull it out, the charging handle was bent almost like 30 degrees away from the receiver.
So some sort of damage while it was in the case or whatever?
Right. So we were immediately we were like, maybe there's, this one. No, but it was fine. I swapped the charging handle out. They sent us a new one, and it worked fine. During the run, it worked fine. And then all of a sudden, I took it to see Kevin on the other range 8. And it stopped cycling 55 grain unless I put a suppressor on it. But right before that, you dumped a whole mag when we're off at the the 800 range. And so that was really odd. And Kevin's first response to you was, Henry broke the rifle already. Thanks, Kevin. But in this whole process, we ended up linking up with some of the technical staff at H&K, and we were able to identify something on there as they were setting up the assembly line and training the staff for the assembly line. One piece was the gas system has a little overflow valve, a screw that you could exchange with different size holes to bleed off extra gas in the system. And this is an advancement over the MR556A1, which does not have that. So what you get with that one is whatever gassing it is. That is the one setting. This one, you could swap out the little gas plug, the gas vent hole in the front, to a different width of it. And basically, you could bleed off more or bleed off less gas in order to tune the gas system on how much gas it goes in. Now, I did not know this. I saw this on some of the original literature, but I couldn't find any information on that. So I didn't know what was going on with the rifle. And turns out, during the assembly process, it must have just it probably wasn't tightened enough. And as we were firing on range, 77s with a suppressor, at some point, this rifle fired 2 projectiles out. One was the actual bullet. The other projectile was the little gas valve. And wherever it is, I don't know. It's out in Narnia at this point. But essentially, that exhaust valve went from 1.3 millimeters to... It does not exist. It is full open. All the gas is coming out. And when I put 55 grain ammunition in there, PMC, the lightest 55 grain, it just wouldn't cycle. So... It still worked when I put the suppressor on, but obviously that's not what it's supposed to do. But
so as a corrective action here, right? Looked at this with the HK team, got a replacement valve sent out, got the torque specs for appropriate installation, installed it, and we shot several hundred rounds through this now post that correction with 0 issues whatsoever, still perfectly torqued in place, leading to the belief that it was likely misinstalled on the original version that was sent out. And so, Henry, I think you could probably drop the specs somewhere of what we were told to do. But that way, if you do end up with one of these, do a sense check, make sure it's torqued to spec there, and you should be good to go. To that point, on the ability to adjust these. Again, user serviceable, meant to be able to be adjusted in and out. The version that we ultimately have, this standard version of whatever this plug is or this vent hole is, back to my original commentary on how it feels during the recoil process. If there is an offering of a larger vent to allow a bit more exhaust, I would be in favor of going and getting that based upon my experience shooting the original bit. But to your point, the advantage of this particular system being you can actually do that.
Right.
Whereas you couldn't necessarily do that on older variations of this rifle.
Right.
So I think it was important, Henry, to share the experience of what happened there, because I could also see that if a user is swapping these in and out, not just because we had this issue happen and we felt like we hadn't messed with it at all and it probably came to you like this, but because this is a user serviceable part, if somebody is changing or adjusting this on their rifle, it is important to make sure that you're locking this down, because very similar to if you're messing around with a gas system on a regular AR and you have an adjustable gas block, for example, and you don't have it set appropriately, or you don't lock your set screws down, or whatever it ends up being, you can have issues with gassing on the gun. It's something you have to pay attention to, and it's basically, let's call it a level up in your requirements on running the system and operating on the system. Not operating, but operating, right?
Now, I do think the standard gas setting, what I've, after shooting a couple hundred rounds at this point, I felt that it's a little bit of a misnomer that it's normal and suppressed. Obviously, that's the HK416 designation. I actually like to run this on the suppress mode if it's for full power 556 projectiles, and basically treat the normal position as an adverse gas setting and suppressed as a regular gas setting. It seems to work. But anyways, I just want to throw that out there if anyone's getting into the gas system, because that was a little bit confusing for me as I got into it.
With that said, Henry, there's this other very looming piece that we need to address here, which is, why has this product been brought to market without a chrome lined barrel, which is what you find in the 416, which I think in my mind, I'm like, I want the 416, give me the chrome lined barrel. There is no chrome lined barrel. Why? Why?
So, okay, MR stands for match rifle, right? It does not stand for the HK416 civilian. Like, this is not a 416 Charlie C for civilian. In a sense, what was this rifle designed for? That's going to be the big question, versus what's the expectation from the market right now? The expectation from the market is that, H&K is making pretty much a 416 for the civilian world, whereas H&K seems to be approaching this from, this is a civilian rifle that uses the 416 blueprint to manufacture one of the most reliable and accurate rifles. And so I think there's a little bit of a mismatch between those two expectations, between what H&K is providing and what the civilian market wants, because the civilian market wants to clone the military stuff, right? I mean, you don't see people with any Mauser-based sporting rifles nowadays wondering, why is this not a Kar 98K? Clearly, that is for hunting. So I'm not saying this is for hunting, but when it comes back to what we're trying to talk about, why is the bore not chrome lined? This is a question that you and I actually hammered H&K with. Many a questions. Like, poor guys over there have gotten phone calls, text messages, emails, all forms of communications to include Signal from me on why is this not, where chrome? Where you has no roller already. Where is chrome? So first off the bat, the base blank is the same as the 416. It's the same material. The chamber is cut differently. This has a match chamber, whereas the 416 has a military chamber. So the match chamber is tighter. When I load cartridges in here, it's tighter on the extraction, whereas the 416Ds that we've shot, it just flings it out. Obviously, the 416 is there to anticipate that you are going to do things like fall out of a helicopter. You are going to emerge like a hero from a beachside with water dripping out the bore before you fire it, right? So these are different specs that they are also, that the two systems are tailored to. But the core material is the same. Let me see. I'm going to pull up some of this stuff. So they're saying that one might argue that H&K is offering a chrome-infused barrel. And this is kind of arguing on the core material, the building block to the steel. The common barometer for a barrel in the US is mil-spec, which is governed by Mil B 1159-5 Echo, commonly referred to 4150 chromoleum vanadium. The chemistry is required to have 0.8% to 1.15% chromium. Now, the low chrome content here results to requiring a chrome lining to effectively provide... chrome lining is then effectively required to provide the barrel corrosion and abrasion resistance. So the low chrome volume to a steel, a mil-spec steel barrel requires that chrome lining in order for it to perform in a military specification environment. H&K typically uses 3% or above, they're saying, of chromium in their steel composite. Now, they didn't disclose the entire mix, stating that it is trade secret for them. But the high chrome content and other alloyed materials, so it's not just chromium that's mixed into the steel content, makes the H&K blend of steel more naturally resistant to corrosion, abrasion, and wear. This is from their testing. We did not drop this down a pond and come back to it a month later. So I think part of this comes down to expectation management, right? And I think more so than expectation management, H&K is also restricted by certain German laws. These barrel blanks are from H&K, but they're finished in the US. And they could very well still chrome it in the US. And that's a question that we asked. And they said they actually, in the past few years, they've been trying to look for a local contractor to chrome it. And they couldn't get the specs to match up the HK416 chrome specs. Because when you chrome something, it's an additive process and it can't be as uniform. And they were wanting to favor more towards accuracy and precision rather than chrome lining that is no net positive and doesn't match their H&K spec.
All right, so in summary, Henry, if we look at this in totality, right, the argument that HK's provided back to what I think is quite a reasonable question of why no chrome line is there's several facets. Number one, there is governmental restrictions on exporting from HK Germany the barrel blank with it chromed. Okay, got it. Could chrome it in the US and have attempted to chrome these in the US, but haven't been able to meet the standard in terms of being able to appropriately get it chromed in the US and actually clone the spec that would be considered acceptable for the 416. The result of that, per the comments they've provided, is a degradation in accuracy, which is unacceptable, and a degradation of actual barrel life because of the additive process of the chrome not being consistent enough or quote-unquote good enough. Basically, USA not good enough for German in manufacturing. Shock.
Right.
And then as a final piece or a final explanation is, and that's okay, because the actual chrome content built into the steel itself is sufficient to prevent the rust, corrosion, whatever else, and improve the longevity of the barrel to keep it in line or appropriately sufficient for what it's designed to do. And that's to be shot 10,000 plus rounds without an issue. That's the 1 minute snapshot of basically what we're hearing back as a response.
Yeah, I mean, and they were saying that they're confident enough to where if you shoot a barrel out, basically doubling the accuracy on upon normal use, then they'll swap the barrel out. And normal use does not constitute full auto, which if you wanted to turn this full auto, you've got to mill a bunch of stuff on the inside of the receiver. So I think that would warrant that would void the warranty in the first place. So again, this is expectation management. Like, is the chrome line barrel something highly important to you? I mean, if it is, there's a lot of trade-in 416 kits or aftermarket 416 style barrels that are chrome lined. This one particular one, I mean, it's a mental gymnastic type of logic, but part of it, remember, this thing isn't fully made in the US. It still has a lot of German components to it. It's kind of like barely made in US to be called made in the US. And so when I'm looking at it, I think they're trying to bring a product to the market with certain restrictions, whether it's with the manufacturing process. They don't have the German chrome line process built into their US facilities, and they can't export it to the US as is, right? And so all of that put together, either you have a barrel that is chrome lined in the US but doesn't meet their specifications that they want to meet, which, trust me, if you ever worked with Germans or German companies, their specifications, if you don't meet it by a millimeter, so help you God. They would rather not chrome line it and accept a lifetime warranty on the barrel than chrome line it and deliver a worse accuracy is their explanation. I mean, now some people would be like, well, then they're trying to save money. Okay.
Yeah, I just don't see that being the case here. Like a personal opinion, it doesn't seem to me that the lack of a chrome line here is based upon attempting to save whatever it is, a couple bucks per barrel. I don't know. Like,
I think
it doesn't seem.
If they wanted to save money, they could have set up the entire internal production line here with substandard materials, but the same design, and still crank it out. That's what SIG did with the SIG 556 versus the Swiss 556 or Swiss 550 series rifles. Instead of importing stuff, they just set the line up here and gradually produced it in the States, and it shows that the quality went down. It seems like HK USA is not taking that route and basically trying to uphold standards while trying to jump through multiple hoops.
Yeah, when you look at the totality of all of the other stuff that's like put into the gun, there's plenty of other areas that could have been obvious cost-cutting measures that don't appear to have been a cost, like that hasn't been the reality of the situation. So I just don't see how it would align here either, especially given the litany of response in terms of like rationale as to why it was done this way. So, with that said, in talking about cost in and of itself, we alluded to this earlier, but this is a expensive boy, and that's going to be probably a lot of people's general feedback and commentary about this rifle in the first place, and why picking on something like, well, it doesn't have a chrome line barrel, it comes out so easily, because it's like, for the price you're paying, you should literally get every single thing you want with this particular firearm. That's my assessment of it anyways. And that's an area of... Well, it's an area I want to explore a bit more with you, Henry.
All right, so cost, right? I think earlier there were some guys who were reporting this is YouTube, so jelly beans.
Yes.
We need 4,000 jelly beans to exchange for one of these products. But that's not really what it turned out to be. It was about like mid threes, and then sometimes you could find it at low threes at certain places that's selling under map. So to me, that seems like, and Josh, you're more refined on cost analysis, the current cost analysis than I am.
Commercial product cost positions, Henry, isn't your forte.
Well, my mind.
What's
though,
the current market value of a... I'm just kidding.
Well, but that is that close to a SCAR? It seems.
Yeah. I think it's in line with the SCAR 16, which sort of sits in that like low threes to mid threes range.
Okay.
But frankly, like everything else, all the other like big ones that come to mind for me, I mean, it's those are all less, right? Still, it's not the gap of 4 to 3, but it still is quite a significant gap. Your SR15s, your LMTs, your SIG Spears, those are all in the mid 2s to upper 2s, or give or take. Like there's always different models of everything that like plus or minus in this space, but like so this is still like on the expensive end of all of those items. When you think about like that really high grade, ultra premium rifles, like this is still exceeding those.
So, I mean, this is my personal feeling on this. It's kind of like people in the collectible pre-ban world. If you're spending high dollar like that, you're not necessarily picking and choosing certain features. You want that. And on top of that, if you're talking about a lifetime warranty on the barrel, I think this is one of those things that you spend the money for a long duration is if you really wanted to look at where does the money go. You get this longevity, which you cannot see on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean let's not pull any punches here. Like this is not the average person's rifle. Like the average person, this is not marketed to them. They're not going to buy this. It's not even the, let's call it like prepared citizen, like level up from the average gun owner, right? Like
how
again,
on brand,
average,
Josh?
Right.
This is not the average.
No, very, very much so. The average gun owner, no shot, is going for this. You're really like you're stretching into people who got disposable income, want an HK product specifically in this space, and I would have said are interested in cloning the 416, but I do think that is, that this isn't, to what we had described earlier, this isn't the 416 clone.
Right.
I mean, you can get some of the form factor, yes, but I don't see it as being that. I think that this is just a really nice rifle that you would potentially get as somebody who wants to buy an HK product.
Yeah, so I think one of the final questions that I had for H&K was, if we're looking at expectation management and supplying something that what people want, if the expectation management, if there's a certain part of the market that wants a 416, you're made in the US, why not make the 416? It was interesting on what they had written back earlier, is that, and I'm reading this from verbatim, H&K is prohibited from offering the 416 specifically to anyone other than a U.S. federal, state, or local government agency due to German export and U.S. import restrictions. German law and regulations specifically prohibit the export of a 416 unless there is an approved end-user certificate by the German government. This includes any weapon marked 416, even if it's manufactured to compliant MR standards. That's why when you look at a lot of the components here, specifically it says MR, match rifle, not 416. So, unfortunate, this is one of those things that I'm looking at them. Certain other companies are able to make clone 416 parts, but H&K, bound by their parent company's government, legal restrictions, they simply cannot. So, I don't know where that leads for people who want to clone the 416. Do you want something that's factory assembled by H&K that carries a warranty, or do you want something that is made by components that resemble the 416, or surplus components that are surplus from law enforcement agencies that are from the 416? So that's just a debacle that H&K and Germany have kind of like this invisible box that they've put themselves into. Not H&K, but Germany has put this invisible box over H&K, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, look, Henry, we started this conversation with some brief commentary on performance, and then we got into this really finite detail around, the metallurgy of the barrel and whether it matters or doesn't matter. If it's okay, let's just pull it all back for a second here. I think a lot of people may have speculated with the stand-up of HK USA that maybe some of those German restrictions could be sidestepped, could be worked around. But at least with the initial launch of this product, it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. Whether there isn't an appetite to do it, or it still just isn't going to happen because it can't happen because there's still enough of the parts are coming from Germany, so on and so forth, right? So that doesn't seem to be something we're going to work around. So that leaves us then with a very expensive, but also extremely functional rifle. And so just really quick to run through what that is. It's like the rifle has great form factor. It's gorgeous. It looks great. Feels great. Shoots really well. Seems quite reliable for the amount of shooting that we've done thus far once we got the gassing sorted out. And is extremely accurate. Is able to shoot the practical accuracy course and be hitting out to 800 yards. Yeah, with a 6-power LPVO not designed for the round we were shooting. So all of those things lead me to the conclusion of it's a very functional rifle. Do you have to pay the amount that is being charged in order to gain this type of function? Not necessarily, no. I think that there are other options out there that do very well in this space, and it makes it very hard to compete from a pure dollar-to-dollar value assessment. But there's a secondary element to all of it, which is, do you want something from HK? And if you do, here is the option for you. And if you are the type of person that wants to spend the money on it, then you're not going to go wrong in terms of the performance side of what's capable. That's what we've seen thus far with the testing we've done thus far. Right. Fair?
Yeah, so one of the biggest components, and yes, I agree with you, that's a very fair assessment on this, but I'm going to bring a little bit of real-world stuff to this. one of the biggest components that we've identified that we thought was a really good addition in the MR556 system was that gas system, the tunable gas system. Now, they're going to list it online to purchase. As of today, it has not been listed on their web store yet, but it's supposed to come, they say. And they also said that they could sell other 416 components onto the web store. That said, one of the premier 416 users, military-wise, are the Norwegians. They have the 416N, the 416 November, N for Norway. And it is a 14.5 mil-spec 416 with a bayonet lug and a folding front sight. And them and the French are two major users of the HK416. That said, I don't know if you've been following the IPSC Rifle World Shoot this year. Europeans dominated that. Dominated. The Norwegians took second place with an MR556 or an MR223, so Euro spec version of this, an MR223 of this rifle. And I always wondered, how did they do that with that crappy 416 non-adjustable gas block? Turns out that solution is here. And so if you're looking at how well can this perform in the sporting market, this never occurred to us that a 416 pattern was a sporting rifle before we handled this. After handling this, I understand that that is a sphere that it is geared towards. Now, it's always going to have the military rifle pedigree to it. It's an excellent service rifle for what it is. But this is a sporting rifle with a military pedigree behind it, in my opinion.
Yeah. And again, it's interesting because to your point, Henry, never would have thought of the snappy, punchy sort of like 416 system as something I would run in competition, but it is pretty cool to see that is the case and people are able to do it quite effectively.
Yeah. So I've already asked for those valve stems whenever they come out. I'd love to get our hands on it and get to do testing on it whenever they come out. So I will leave that for a classic review down the road.
Nice.
For us to do this. However, we also, around the same time, filmed a roller boy equivalent of this from the 70s and the 80s. And so that is also coming out. And so we're looking at a fair amount of H&K stuff that's coming out to the channel, and looking forward to also the MR762, because then, we have more to talk about on the 308 side and the 16-inch CSAS-ish type of rifle side.
When we talk about ones that I'm excited to shoot, that is on the list for sure. So, gang, we appreciate those of you who stuck around. We knew this was a lengthy debrief. There was a lot to talk about. Hot topic on this particular rifle. Be interested to hear what your thoughts are down below. Does the rationale on the chrome lining and the metallurgy make sense or not? Let us know. And as always, do all the good YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Hop into the Discord. Come chat with Henry and I and give us your direct feedback right there. Until next time, we'll see you guys on the range.
Hallo. This is a rolling object. Such an easy solution for weight bearing. Und the transfer of momentum. This concept is elegantly incorporated in some of these finest small arms in the world. Natürlich aus Deutschland. Now I hope you are enjoying the show so far. Shows like this, of course, they're brought to you by Slates Black Industries. But more importantly, we have the support of the patrons of Patreon und Utreon. That's right. This magnificent group of men and women, they support us financially, intellectually, but most importantly, emotionally. So today I'd like to invite you, come, join us, become one of us. Zusammen, we will conquer the Welt in small arms development. But if you cannot, we completely understand. We will be just as happy to see you put a comment in the comment section below. But I must say, for now, let's get on with it. Now is the final goodbye.
716 is Steel 96, 4 Vic, 8 packs, REDCON 1, green and green. How copy, over?
Steel 96, this is 716, roger, over. 16, Steel 91, 1 pack, green, green, over. This is 716, roger, over. 16, Steel 92, 1 Victor, 2 packs, REDCON 1, over.